Welcome back to Play the Game HQ. I'm Daniel, and in this video, we're going to teach you how to play the Architects of Amytis, published in the US by Hachette Board Games USA, who helped sponsor this video. The Architects of Amytis is a two-player head-to-head tile-laying game where you're competing to build the most beautiful city for the King of Babylon. During the game, you'll use your architects to claim tiles that you'll be placing into your city, scoring points for the buildings that you play, completing project cards, and all the while playing games of tic-tac-toe with your architects that will let you claim in-game scoring bonuses. To set up the game, put out the main board, the favor board, and the scoreboard in the middle of the table. Shuffle the building tiles and remove 3 random tiles without looking at them and put those back in the box. Then put the rest of the tiles face up on the main board in stacks with 5 tiles each. Shuffle the project cards and put the deck next to the main board, then lay out 3 cards face up. Give each player a playing board and a matching set of architects, player tokens, and building cards, then both players set up their board the same way. Put one of your player tokens on the 0 space of the scoreboard and one on the 0 space of your player board. Then put the rest of your player tokens and your architect tokens next to the board. Draw 2 project cards and put those face up next to your board, then lay out the 6 building cards. All of the building cards have an A side and a B side, and these cards tell you how each type of building scores when you add it to your board. And they'll score differently depending on which side of the card you're using. If this is your first game, it's recommended that you use the A side, but in future games, you don't even have to have all of the cards on the same side. You could do some on A and some on B, but whichever side you use, both players need to be using the same side of each card. So if I'm using side A of the residence and side B of the palace, the other player needs to have their building set up in the same way. Now pick a first player and give them the first player card and you're ready to get started. Both players start the game with their boards completely empty, but we're going to start a couple of turns into the game because the scoring and some of the steps during your turn will make more sense if there's already a few pieces on the board. Each turn has 4 steps. First, check to see if you need to recall your architects. During the game, you'll be placing your architects on top of the stacks on the main board when you claim a tile. At the beginning of your turn, if all 4 of your architects are on the main board, or if 3 of your architects are lined up 3 in a row on a row, column, or diagonally, take all of your architects from the main board and put them back into your supply. You can only bring your architects back under these 2 conditions, and it will always be at the start of your turn. Next, take a tile from the main board that doesn't already have an architect on it, then add one of your architects to the stack that you took it from, and then add that tile to your main board. So I'll take this residence tile, I'll place an architect on that stack that I took it from, and then I'm going to place this tile on my board. You can add a tile to any space on your board, even on top of existing tiles. It doesn't need to be adjacent to any other tiles, and there's no restrictions to covering up other tiles, and no maximum height for a stack. That tile can go anywhere you want, but keep in mind when you're scoring tiles for anything other than stack height, only visible tiles matter. After you place your tile, resolve its effect and immediately score the points for the building. This is when you'll reference the 6 building cards beside your board. Each building type scores differently, and your building cards tell you how to score each one. So this is a residence tile, and on side A, it scores 1 point for each different type of building, including this residence tile. So I have 3 different types of buildings. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3 points on the main scoreboard. The scoreboard only goes up to 49, so anytime you get back to 0, just move the marker on the side of your board up 1 space. And we'll go through each building type and how they score later in the video. After you've scored your tile, check to see if you can claim a king's favor. This is the tic-tac-toe element of the game. If placing your architect completes a row, column, or diagonal 3 in a row, use one of your scoring tokens to claim a king's favor on the king's favor board. These are all in-game scoring, so you don't score it when you place your token, and only one player can claim each space on the board, and once it's claimed, that token can't be moved. So it's important that you try and claim these early and pay attention to what you've claimed, and place your tiles accordingly so you can maximize your scoring from these. And while this is primarily a tile placement game and the majority of your points will come from your board, being strategic with this tic-tac-toe game can really make a difference, especially if you can block your opponent from claiming these. Because remember, if all 4 of your architects are out, you bring them all back. So if you can stop them from getting 3 in a row, especially if you can get those 3 in a row yourself, you can gain a lot of points through the king's favor board. Now I do have 3 in a row here, so I am going to get to claim a king's favor space. The scoring rule for each of the king's favor spaces is on the back of the rule book, and remember, these are all in-game scoring. This first space gives you 3 points for each stack with exactly 1 tile. The second one gives you 2 points for each stack with exactly 2 tiles, 4 points for exactly 3 tiles, and 6 points for exactly 4 tiles. This next space gives you 6 points for each row and column with a 1, 2, 3 height staircase stack, And one stack can be used in multiple staircases. So if I could get this corner to 3 and then have 1 and 2 here and 1 and 2 here, I would score 12 points for this row and column, but diagonal staircases do not count. This space gives you 5 points for each corner on your board with at least 3 tiles, and this last space gives you 2 additional points for each completed project card, which we'll talk about in just a minute. And these bottom spaces give you points based on how many tokens you have in this row. 4, 10, 18, and 30 points for 1, 2, 3, or 4 tokens. And you just score for the highest level you reach. So 3 tokens is 18 points, not 4 plus 10 plus 18. So because it's early in the game and I don't know exactly how tall my stacks are going to be at the end of the game and how I might want to arrange my board, I'm going to go ahead and use this row right here to claim the first space on this bottom row so I can work up hopefully to 30 points at the end of the game. And finally, let's talk about project cards. You start the game with 2 project cards and you gain more by building palace tiles. Anytime you draw a project card, you can take one of the face-up cards or the face-down card on the top of the deck. If you take a face-up card, replace it immediately. Each tile has a color in the top corner, and project tiles score by matching their patterns with the tiles on your board. Only visible tiles matter, and you can rotate the pattern on the project card any way you want, but you aren't allowed to mirror it. So to complete this project tile, I could rotate it, but I'm not allowed to mirror it. So at the beginning of my next turn, I do start with 3 architects in a row, so I am going to recall these architects, and then I'm going to use this one to claim this orange tile right here. I'm going to place it in the center space on my board, and that at the end of my turn will complete this project card. I have a blue, an orange, and a green. You are allowed to complete multiple project cards on the same turn, and you can even complete them on the turn that you draw them as long as the pattern shown is visible on your board. When you complete a project card, show it to the other player and let them confirm that it's accurate, and then put it in a face-down pile next to your board. These won't be scored until the end of the game. So on your turn, you'll check to see if you need to recall your architects, claim a tile, place it and score it, and then check for King's Favor, and then check to see if you finished any project cards, and then it's the next player's turn. Play continues until any second stack on the board is empty. If that happens on the first player's turn, the second player gets one more turn, and if it happens on the second player's turn, the game ends immediately. When the game ends, score each King's Favor that you claimed and all of the project cards that you've completed, and the points for those are shown in the bottom right corner. Add the score for your project cards and your King's Favor to your running score for placing tiles during the game, and the player with the highest score wins. So I score 30 points for having 4 tokens in the bottom row and 6 points per stair step, so I have 2 right here, so that's an additional 12 points. And the other player is going to score for 2 tall stacks, 3 tall stacks, and corners with at least 3 tiles in them. Now let's take a look at the different types of buildings and how they score. First, we'll do side A. Gardens score 1 point for every stack that's the same height as the stack where you placed that tile, including the tile that you just placed. So if I were placing this tile right now, it's only 1 tile tall, so I would score 3 points because I have 3 total stacks that are 1 tile tall. Markets score 2 points for each visible tile that's the same color as the market you just placed, including that market tile. Walls score 2 points for each wall on the edge of the board. Palaces score 1 point for each visible palace, and they let you draw a project card. Residence buildings score 1 point for each different type of building that's visible on your board, so you'll check your board and see how many different types of buildings you have, and score 1 point for each different type of building. And theaters score 1 point per architect from either player that's currently on the main board. Those are very valuable when there's a lot of architects on the board. And now we'll look at side B. When you place a garden, count the number of tiles in that stack, including the garden you just placed, and score 2 points for each tile in that stack. When you place a market on side B, score 1 point for each tile on your board that is not the same color as the market. And after you place a wall, count the visible walls on the 4 corners of your board and score 1, 4, 8, or 10 points for walls on 1, 2, 3, or 4 corners. When you place a palace, score 1 point for each project card completed by you and the other player, or draw a new project card. Residences score 2 points for each market tile and each resident tile visible on your board, and theaters on side B score 2 points for each architect of your color on the main board when you place that theater. And again, all of these scoring conditions are referenced in the back of the rulebook. And that's the Architects of Amytis. If you have any questions, leave us a comment below and we'll answer as quick as we can. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you later. Bye.